Okay, so let's get started. Hi, everyone, and welcome to tonight's webinar. My name is Rafi Shulman, and I'm the co-founder of Olim Advisors. It's such a pleasure to have you with us here tonight. And I'd like to take a moment and introduce you to the panel of people who have graciously agreed to join us tonight. So we'll start with Brian Becker from Harish, Israel Levine, also, and then Rob Grossman and Rabbi Kagan. Oh, actually, is Rabbi Kagan? I don't think he joined. Sorry about that, everybody. Let me just make sure that I'm making him as a presenter as well. Yeah. Okay. Just give us a moment to join us. Rabbi Kagan, you there? Can you hear us? Excellent.
Yes.
Great. Sorry about that. Okay. So let me just introduce everyone again. So we have Rav Grossman, Rabbi Kagan, and Deborah Michael from Carmei Gat. And from Harish, it's Rav Feldberg, Israel Levine, and Brian Becker. So thank you all for joining us tonight. We really appreciate your time, and we're looking forward to hear your guidance and your words of wisdom. We have about 180 people from Israel and around the world who are joining us tonight. And it's always so inspiring for me to see that people want to connect with Israel, whether they're making Aliyah now, down the future, or down the road, or maybe they're looking to buy a home in Israel. There's some sort of desire to connect with Israel. And we want to be here. We want to help you. We want to guide you through the process. Before we get started, I just want to share with you a few quick things. First of all, we will have a Q&A session at the end, so feel free to put in your questions into the Q&A window, and we'll try and get to as many of the questions as we can. We also have our contact information. I'll have a slide at the end of the presentation with the contact information, and we really encourage you to reach out to us because we know we can't get to everyone's questions during this webinar. We can't answer your questions and really understand what your concerns and what your goals and challenges are in the short period of time. And so we want to invite you to reach out to us, and we'll also reach out to you. Let's have those one-on-one conversations. Let's really understand what you're trying to accomplish and how we can help you. And the last thing is that we will be recording the webinars, and we'll send out a link to the recording. So if you've come late or if you need to leave early, don't worry about it. We'll send out an email to everyone who registered so that you can watch it again at your own convenience. And also, please share it with anybody. Share it with anyone else who wasn't able to join tonight, who you think might find this webinar helpful. Before we start the content, before we get into the content, I just want to share with you for a couple of minutes a little bit about who we are here at Olim Advisors and why we're hosting these webinars. So if you think about the process of making Aliyah or buying a home in Israel, it's not a simple process. There's a lot of factors involved. And for many people, it's a complicated, overwhelming process. And unfortunately, what happens, a lot of people say, you know what, maybe this is too big of a decision for me. Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe I should wait. Maybe I shouldn't go and buy a home in Israel at all. And it's really a shame. It's a shame that people are coming to this conclusion. So back in 2016, my sister and I started Olim Advisors with the goal of providing a very customized, personalized service that will guide people through the process from beginning to end. So if you're thinking about making Aliyah, we will assign a dedicated advisor to you who will talk to you about the important pre-Aliyah decisions, like finding a community, finding schools, finding a home, what you should ship, and so on and so forth. And then when you come to Israel, this advisor will guide you through the process of dealing with the bureaucracy, so you don't have to deal with all the headaches of dealing with the government offices and the banks. And last but not least, the advisor will be here to support you on an ongoing basis and answer any questions that you might have, whether it's small questions or big questions. And the same thing applies to those of you who are thinking about buying a home in Israel, whether you live outside of Israel or already in Israel. The process is different language, different culture, different way of doing business. And so we will have somebody who will guide you from the beginning of the process of buying a home, whether it's finding the right community, finding the right projects, finding the right developers, and probably most importantly, is finding the right people to work with. So we have a network of professionals, realtors, mortgage brokers, lawyers, bankers that we will introduce you to, who will make sure that they're taking care of you. And really the bottom line is that if you work with Olim Advisors and our network, we will save you a lot of time. We will reduce the stress, and we will greatly increase the chance of success. So whether you're buying a home in Israel or you're making Aliyah, don't do it alone. Turn to us and let us help you through this process from beginning to end. Okay, so let's get started with the content. So the first topic of the presentation is finding the right community and schools. How do you go about doing this? And this is a question that we get from a lot of people who are either making Aliyah or people who are living in Israel and they're thinking about moving. And so the first piece of advice that I have is that you should look for a community and then the school. So first of all, think about what you want to see in the community. And once you find the community that meets your needs, meets your children's needs, then more often than not, those communities will have schools that will be suitable for your kids. And if your kids are older, then a lot of kids in Israel will hop on a bus and they might travel for 20 minutes, for 30 minutes outside of the community. So focus your search on a community, find the right community that's suitable for you, and then we'll help you find schools within the community. The next thing that you should do is make a list of preferences, make a wish list, so to speak, of things that you want to see in a community. And for many people, this is an opportunity to start a new chapter in your life. So if you're making Aliyah or moving, this is a great way to start a new chapter, to start a new lifestyle that maybe you've always wanted. So things like, do you want to live in an Anglo community? Or maybe it's a mixed community. Maybe it's more balanced between Israelis and Anglos. Do you want it to be religious? Do you want it to be secular? Do you want to live by the sea, or do you want to live up north? Do you want to have an urban environment like a city, or maybe more suburban where it's more open space? There's a lot of decisions, a lot of factors that go into this. So we recommend that you make a long list of preferences, your wish list, and then narrow it down. And as you're doing this, be open-minded and consider all options, because there's a lot of amazing communities that are emerging. There's amazing congregations and neighborhoods in communities that you might not have heard of before. And so really take the time, speak to people, do the research, and look at options. You might come across something that is perfect for you that other people wouldn't have even thought to mention it to you. So be open-minded and look at the options. As you're doing that, of course, you want to have a budget in mind, whether it's to rent or to buy. It doesn't make sense for you, for example, to look to rent or buy in Yerushalayim if you can't afford to do that, or to rent or buy in Tel Aviv if you can't afford to do that. So go through, and we can help you with this. Put together a rough estimate of what your budget looks like, and that will help you guide you through this process of finding the right community. And last but not least is plan a pilot trip. If you're thinking about making Aliyah, then let us help you plan that. Let us help you find 3 or 4 communities that might be suitable. Let us help you find schools that might be suitable, and really spend the time to do this right, because there's nothing that's better than coming to Israel and looking at the schools, looking at the communities, meeting people, meeting principals, meeting administrators from the schools. And if you live in Israel already, then it's even easier for you to go on these day trips and look at the communities, because very often when you walk around, when you look at the people, when you look at the neighborhoods, you'll have a much better sense of what each community has to offer, which of course is such an important decision. Okay, now we're going to move over to Carmei Gat, and we're going to talk to you about the wonderful things that Carmei Gat has to offer. So Rav Grossman, I apologize, I just realized I misspelled your name, but Rav Grossman, if you can start and talk about why people should consider Carmei Gat, what's so amazing about the community and the congregation that you have there at Carmei Gat.
Thank you, Rafi, and thank you everyone for joining us. It's always a pleasure and really an honor to be able to talk about our community and to be featured alongside the communities of Harish and Achziv, especially having with me 2 such valued members of our community, Rabbi Shulman and Deborah Michael, have contributed so much to our community, and of course, always really a pleasure to be with Rabbi Feldberg from Harish. And thank you, Rafi. So I'll just talk for a few minutes about Carmei Gat in general, but specifically the shul that I privileged to serve as the rabbi, Beit Knesset Carmei Zion, And you'll hear more in just a few minutes from other aspects of Carmei Gat. So our shul really stands for it's a Torah, Tefillah, Chesed, and community. To sum it up in one brief sentence, it's 6 years old, founded around the time that this neighborhood was inaugurated. It's a brand new neighborhood as part of Kiryat Gat, which is a city in the northern part of the southern part of Israel. We say we're about, say, an hour's drive southwest of Jerusalem, about a 40-minute train ride from Tel Aviv, located relatively centrally for something that's a little bit, what they say, on the periphery, but still accessible. Our community is one that has all the essentials that are integral for a Beit Knesset. We have minyanim every day, shiurim during the week, on Shabbat, a full range of community events across the spectrum, an active Beit Midrash. It is a community that is supportive, warm, and welcoming. There's a welcome committee for new residents. One of the things that I'm very proud of is an event that's called Kiddush Hekirut that we practice a few times a year, where families are matched up with other families in the community for Kiddush. It's important for us to feel like there are connections between families and community, and we build community through those connections, even as our community grows. Our community our shul has now reached over 200 member families, especially with the influx that's coming in this summer. We're growing rapidly, and we try to keep that close-knit feel that has really been the hallmark of the community since it was started. I was hired within 3 years of the shul's founding. And our demographics in our shul are mostly young families, couples with children in their 20s and 30s, although there's a growing demographic, even at certainly above 40, 50, 60. There are many, many children, concentrated most in the Gan and early elementary school years. And then there are other children. There are smaller numbers of children in the other years of elementary and high school. Most families in our shul are English speaking, but the shul is not officially an Anglo shul. We are a shul that also includes native Israelis. The official language of the shul is in Hebrew. That means that the Divrei Torah that I give in shul and the announcements will be in Hebrew, even as most people that you meet in shul will speak English. And this really provides an opportunity to both have a safety net, a strong sense of connection to people who speak your language, who understand your culture, ranging from people who made Aliyah very recently to people who may have grown up in Israel, but grew up in Anglo communities here in Israel, to people who live in Israel and are not English speaking. Provides an opportunity for integration. And that's something that we believe in very much, in having the Olim side by side, newer Olim with older Olim, and what I call Yisraelim Batikim, long-time Israelis. We are still developing, maybe you'll hear a little bit more about this, some of the infrastructure that other communities might already have for Olim. But with the strength of the community, many people have found this to be a very meaningful and productive place for their landing here in Israel. You can hear more about that from Rabbi Kagan. In terms of the neighborhood itself, this is an urban context, neighborhood of a city. There are many, many amenities within easy walking distance of the shul. There are many other shuls in the neighborhood. We are the only Ashkenazi Dati Leumi shul in the neighborhood, but there are many, 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 especially Idot Mizrach shuls. There are Chabad shuls within walking distance. There is a mikvah. There are 2 Dati elementary schools within a 5-minute radius of each other, both in the neighborhood. There are other schools. There's a girls' Opana High School in the neighborhood. There are high schools in the broader area, not in the neighborhood yet. There are shopping centers, including kosher restaurants, supermarkets, many amenities within walking distance of the neighborhood. You'll hear more about the real estate opportunities from Deborah in just a few minutes. They're mostly apartment buildings, but also several developments of single-family or du mishpachti homes. And I'll just add a note about security. Sometimes people hear these days, especially it's the south of Israel. And I'll say, although we did have a number of sirens on Simchat Torah itself, most parts of the country did. And we really, since then, I think we only had 1 siren. We seem to fall between the cracks, Baruch Hashem. And there's really a feeling of safety. As far as I can tell, it is a quiet, serene life continues as usual, as much as usual. For the rest of the country, we've had many fewer sirens than Tel Aviv or Yerushalayim, most of the Merkaz. And there's no guarantee what the future may hold. We hope and pray that it should continue to be safe for us and for all of Am Yisrael. But that has not been something that, in my experience living here, has been a concern.
Amen. Thank you so much. And if you can just take a moment and just share with everyone your background, where you made Aliyah from, when you came, that'd be great as well.
Oh yeah, sure. I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I'm originally from the New York area. Grew up between Teaneck, New Jersey, Riverdale, New York. I made Aliyah 9 years ago from New York. My smichas from YU, from Yeshiva University. I made Aliyah to Gush Etzion, to Alon Shvut, where I learned in the Kollel and the Gush for a number of years. I still work there. My other job as a social worker, as a therapist, I work with the overseas students in the yeshiva, and we spent for 7 years in Israel over there in Gush Etzion. Came here 2 years ago. I started with the shul again. Almost 3 years ago, the first year we were commuting, so to speak, from Alon Shvut, and it's been really exciting to see the growth from the time that we started our affiliation with the shul. I think the membership has probably quadrupled. It's really dynamic. It's really meaningful to see the growth of a new part of Israel and to be a part of it. It's a place that people can come and can make their own impact because it is so young and so dynamic and exciting in that way.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay, Rabbi Kagan, you're up.
Hi everyone. My name is Shmuel or Shmuli. We made Aliyah from South Africa, Johannesburg, South Africa, 2.5 years or so, almost. And the truth is, we lived here when I was in Kollel at YU in Israel 15, 17 or so years ago. So my son is born in Israel. He's 15 now. But we didn't know exactly where to go, and it would have been very helpful having this organization guide us. It was also during Corona. We made Aliyah really near the end of Corona. And so I couldn't make the pilot trip with my wife. My wife made Aliyah before we got married, so she had much better access from South Africa into Israel. And that was probably, a mistake that we did the pilot trip alone. So I would just say that come together, and the pilot trip can make a huge impact. So the real reason why I came to Carmei Gat, so I was a rabbi in South Africa. I still, I guess, am a rabbi, but I did pivot in careers to go into sales, high-tech sales, and that's just because just to make a living as a rabbi is not that simple, but I do teach in the shul, and I go to Gush where my Talmidim are, and I'm very involved when I can be on different programs, teaching and connecting. So that has been a major change for me, besides making Aliyah, but just to pivot to a different type of career. And I've got tons to share on that if anybody would like to learn more. So the real reason why we chose Carmei Gat is my wife chose it. We had never been here before. My wife came here for a Shabbat. It was really, to choose just to experience between Efrat, which we kind of know, and somewhere new, Carmei Gat, which we had heard amazing things about. So my wife stayed an extra bit for the pilot trip, and she came to Carmei Gat, and she was absolutely blown away. It really made a huge impact on her. The warm and caring nature of the community. That community has massively grown and broadened since then, but still there's a tremendous connectivity between everybody as much as possible in the community, and that is a major impacting decision. As Rafi mentioned, a community is a big deal, and that was what really spoke to my wife. Is just the community. She happened to be hosted by, she didn't realize, but somebody who she was in Midrashah with, and I was in Yeshiva with. So it's a small world. We also felt that it was part of a little bit of a chalutznik type of community. We were part of building something new, something that was really you know, the Carmei Gat is brand new, like I think Harish as well, but like really there was nothing before. And especially as a community, we were really parcel of influence in that community. My daughter, who's 7, was in the first kitta of a new Torani school, for example. So she's the first grade, and the next year she's second grade, you know, and at the moment, I'm not sure if there's going to be a third grade yet. So she's literally part of building that school. And that was something that was attractive to us. Being that we had lived in Israel before, that our Hebrew wasn't too bad. And that was a major factor. Another aspect was when I told my cousin, who's a real Tel Avivnik, that we were going to Kiryat Gat, I thought he'd be like, oh, gewalt. And he said it was such a good idea because it's much quieter. It's a much slower way of life. And now, especially now, there's so many amazing amenities, and life is much more relaxed out here than it is in the Merkaz. And that was something that did influence our choice. Affordability was huge. I mean, compared to what we could rent here, as opposed to somewhere like Renana, it's thousands of shekels as a difference. And obviously we were the first people in our apartment, so because it's all brand new. So that was something very important. Also, I would say location, even though, you know, when I tell people we live down south, you really have access to many different places within, say, an hour. Of course, it's not from South Africa. I used to drive like 5 minutes to work, and 20 minutes is far. But in Israel, if you can get somewhere in an hour, I guess it's considered not so far. And then you can to Yerushalayim in an hour. My wife works there. I work in Tel Aviv. A real amazing access to a train station. I just bought myself a scooter, and it's very easy to get around on a scooter because it's all brand new. There's lanes. It's all flat. And you're also right near Kfish 6, which is the main artery going, you know, north to south, south to north through the country, and that really makes a difference location-wise. It's like 35 minutes from Beit Shemesh. So you are closer than you think to different places, but it is out there. So there's obviously pros and cons. I must say that Rafi did mention that community is, you know, the most important decision, and then their schools. So I would say that was what drove us in our decision, and we thought there would be better schooling options for our older kids. I have 2 teenage kids, 15 and 12, and for them, it has been very challenging to find the right school in Kiryat Gat. It can be anywhere difficult, but because the schools are very Israeli here and they don't have the Olim programs, I would say for my 7-year-old, it's been amazing. She speaks Hebrew. It's been amazing for her. And has worked out really well for her because we came when she was about 4, turning 5. But for my 15-year-old and my 12-year-old, it has been much more difficult. And there's much fewer teenagers. But over time, that is changing and it is growing. But it is something that I would say that if you're bringing older kids or kids with special needs, you should definitely speak to one of us and just get a better understanding of what's available, because it is a growing city without that much support for Olim regarding English. Russians, Ethiopians, it's a different story to a certain degree, but for English speakers and that, it is much more challenging. But so that's my 2 cents on it.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, Deborah, you're up.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you, Rabbi Grossman and Rabbi Kagan. It's an honor to speak right after you guys. And you made my job a lot easier because you said so many wonderful things about Carmei Gat. I am Deborah Michael from Shalom Bayit Real Estate, and I moved here from Chicago here to Israel 13 years ago. And we landed in Ma'ale Adumim and lived there for 7 years. And then our older kids went to school in Jerusalem. So we moved to Jerusalem for 4 years. And then my older kids who got married heard of this amazing community, Carmei Gat. And so they bought here and we followed. So now we have 2 married kids here and 5 grandkids here. And we were one of the first, I would say, 10 families 50 plus to move here. And there has been a tremendous amount of more people, diverse ages moving here. When the community first started, it was a very young community because it was a very inexpensive community. And although it's still affordable, it's every month getting more and more expensive. And so the average age is going up. So although the prices are going up, it's still one of the more affordable communities. And I have people every day calling me from Beit Shemesh, from Modi'in, who are renting there, Ra'anana, Givat Shmuel, and Petach Tikva, and they're moving here. So also from Canada, Gibraltar, Australia, America, England, for the same reasons that they hear of this amazing community that's still affordable. So for instance, some people are worried about getting priced out. So even though they're not making Aliyah tomorrow, they're coming in for the day, looking at a few houses and buying or renting. So sometimes they'll send a family member if they're not here, and they will actually buy or rent without ever being here or seeing Carmei Gat. As a matter of fact, there are people who just have never been here and just call me and trust me, and we get to know each other, and they'll buy a house, knowing that there are so many good things about Carmei Gat, like the location, the train, the affordability, the community, the rabbis, the shiurim, everything that there is to do here. And the South in general is more affordable. So your service, your workers, your groceries are more affordable than if you were in the center. Some advantages of Carmei Gat: it's a new, everything's new, accessible, clean. We have street cleaners, the garbage goes out 3 days a week, and it's a planned city. So it makes sense. There's a center, and then you have 4 sort of north, south, east, west main roads, and then houses off of those roads. And I always say it feels like a little city with a village feel. So like a yeshuv feel, even though it's a little city where you have everything here, and it still has a very nice villagey feel. As you heard before, it's relatively safe. I haven't heard of crime here, and you're also surrounded by Jewish yeshuvim and kibbutzim, Jewish villages all around here. And only on October 7th we had rockets. So that's also a big deal. We, as Rabbi Grossman said, we are south, but we're not bordering Gaza. There is the English speakers here are dati lumi of every kind, and the Israelis are very traditional. Many of the Israelis here bought as an investment and came over even from Kiryat Gat, and they're very traditional. And they keep Shabbat. There were very few cars on Shabbat in Carmei Gat. And as far as how, we have a lot of English speakers here. The secondhand market is very new in Carmei Gat. Those Israelis who owned first are just starting to turn around and sell their houses. And then English speakers are moving in. So it happens every day. Again, I had someone call me. He wanted to sell his house, and I had a Canadian come in with his father. Actually, his father lives in Israel. He lives in Canada, and within a week, they bought 2 houses around the corner from each other. So there are a lot of stories like that where just people are coming in and they're taking over the houses that these Israelis invested in. So thank you to them. We have an amazing park in the center of Carmei Gat called.
Deborah, you just hit mute by accident. Deborah.
I got it, sorry.
There you go.
I talk with my hands, so I hit the mute button. We have an amazing park all the way down in the center of Carmei Gat called the Sport Tech. We have climbing, rock climbing, ropes course, sand volleyball, beach volleyball, sand volleyball, whatever you call it, basketball, soccer, tennis courts, walking trail, skate park. So that's all going down the center of Carmei Gat. And as you heard before, stores, restaurants, train, direct bus to Jerusalem in 1 hour from Kiryat Gat. The train station is being built in Carmei Gat also. So we will have a walking distance train station. So it's also flat. I've been hearing so many families coming here that are 40 plus, and the first thing they tell me is it's so flat here and they love it. So I didn't realize how impressionable that was, that we have a flat terrain, especially on Shabbat, and it's hot here in the summer. So people definitely like that. Like I told you before, we're surrounded by Jewish yeshuvim, villages and kibbutzim. We have food trucks, all kosher, not all, but mostly. We have food trucks. We have little restaurants, dairy restaurant, Italian restaurant, all around within a 10-minute drive. Plant nurseries, fresh fruits and vegetables you can go and buy, horseback riding. And a lot of biking, a lot of trails for biking, and it's not so hilly, so it's very flat, which is really nice. It's a definite plus. In 30 minutes, you can get to the sea. Sometimes I just get home from work and I leave at 6:30, and at 7 I'm on the sea and I watch the sunset. It's amazing. Ashkelon is very close. Ashdod is close. You can be in Rishon LeZion in 45 minutes even. So you have a lot of sea options from here. Okay, now real estate. So also a lot of the people buying here are coming from within Israel. They're coming from outside of Israel. There's a big group Aliyah coming this summer and in September and in December. They're all arriving with the World Zionist Organization, World Mizrahi, and it's amazing. It's been amazing. They're really wonderful families. One of the houses that I've been showing some of them is a duplex penthouse that is selling, asking price is 3.19 million shekel. This house is completely renovated. It's 155 meters. It's really 5 bedrooms. But one of them they left open downstairs and 4 upstairs. The owner renovated beautifully, and you have 2 parking spaces. So this is for sale, and then you have a garden apartment, 3.39 million shekel. This is there are 2 gardens next to each other with a penthouse on top. It's called a triplex. We have a huge garden, 180 meters. The house itself is 135 meters, 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and that's a couple-minute walk to the Beit Knesset, the English-speaking Beit Knesset with the most English speakers. There are, by the way, 2 Beit Knessets that a lot of the English speaker goes to. One is Carmei Zion and one is Yafad. So there's a different parts of of where you can live, where you're closer to one or the other one. And then the last one that I'm showing you today is a 3-bedroom apartment on the 2nd floor, $2,050,000, and it faces this park, the big park I talked to you about. So you have this park, and it's for sale also.
Great, and here's Deborah's contact information. So definitely reach out to her if you're interested in learning more about real estate in Carmei Gat.
Yeah, and also one more thing I just want to say, that a lot of things are not on public market. So we have things that aren't on the market. So if you call me directly, we can talk about that. Thank you, Rafi.
Thank you. And just for those of you who are not familiar with sizes in meters, if you want to convert from meters to square feet, it's about 10 times. So if an apartment is 150 square meters, it's about 1,500 square feet, give or take. Okay, so we're moving over to Harish and Rav Feldberg, you're up.
Shalom, Erev Tov, everybody. Good evening. First of all, I want to say a big thank you to Rafi again for inviting and asking me to participate and to contribute to this amazing initiative and organization. As it's already been said, what you're doing is making Aliyah, the dream of Yeshiva Aretz, settling the land of Israel, so much more real and more tangible. So Yishar Koach, and you should continue to go from strength to strength with it. And I want to say it's a great pleasure to share the platform with my good friends Brian and Yisrael, both fundamental foundational members of our Kehillah who have done so much and continue to do so much. And really, if anything, I'm the imposter here, and you want to listen to what they have to say, because I want to talk about the spiritual side and the community side, but really kind of they know the tachlis, the everyday life in Harish, etc. And I also want to say, of course, it's a great honor to share the platform with Rav Grossman, and who we keep meeting like this, which is it's always a pleasure, and it's actually it's really good because we both represent, what the webinar is all about, affordable communities in Harish, but there are big differences between our communities. And I think that was reflected recently, and it's nice that kind of communities don't necessarily compete for people. We're all interested in getting people to the right place that's home for them. So just to give a off-the-cuff example, Rav Grossman posted on a WhatsApp group that all the Mizrahi affiliated rabbis are part of a few weeks ago about a particular couple who had been in contact with him, and they'd spoken with him, and they wasn't sure that Carmei Gat was a good fit for them. But I said, "Oh, put them in touch with myself," and we spoke, and just like that, they've now moved. They're moving to Harish. They figured out this is a good place. There's not competition between us. We want everyone on this webinar and in general, Begadol, generally, to find the place that's them, the right place for them in Israel. And I think that's a wonderful and beautiful thing about all of us as Jews working together to find that dream. Now, on to the topic of Harish. A bit about myself. You can tell from my accent that I'm a Londoner originally from the United Kingdom. Myself and my wife made Aliyah from Golders Green in 2016. I learned for a number of years in Kollel in London, Yeshiva in Israel. I had my smicha from Rav Rimon and Rav Brovender, among others. And, the community in Harish was founded for very different reasons to the community in Carmei Gat, which was talked about a lot of integration and to be with Israelis. We call ourselves the Anglo Shul of Harish, and that's kind of, a badge we wear with pride. And something that we wanted to do and provide is to ensure that when people came on Aliyah, it wasn't just a physical Aliyah. It wasn't just an immigration. It wasn't just that you pick up from South Africa or from England or from the United States, and then you come and live in this new location, but you had the spiritual Aliyah as well. And so because of that, a lot more of our programming, maybe more of our programming than in Carmei Gat, is focused on delivering spiritual services in English for the English-speaking community. Now, that being said, we have Israelis and a growing Israeli contingent in our Beit Knesset, in our shul, and that's a wonderful and beautiful thing. But the objective of the shul is to provide English-speaking services for English-speaking Olim, and that's really the tachlis and the objective that we had when we came together, particularly in terms of offering learning programs, which is what the shul was born out of, a learning program that became a Friday night minyan, that became a Shabbos morning minyan as well, and is now a full community, a full service community. We're a much smaller community than Carmei Gat. We're only about just over 50 families, with the latest influx in the summer still growing in those numbers. And that means we have a very close-knit feel. Everyone feels like family here. We help each other out all the time. If somebody needs help with something, immediately people will jump on the WhatsApp groups. Oh, you need a ride to go to, Hadera. You need a ride to go to Pardes Chana. Sorry, I should have said already. Harish is located in the north of Israel, unlike Carmei Gat, which is in the south. If you know where Netanya is, most people, that's the last point a lot of chutznikim know about Israel. They know Netanya. You go north to Hadera, which is the next city north, then just go east. You hit a town called Pardes Chana, and then east of Pardes Chana, that's Harish. We're not over the green line. We're on the Israeli side. That's a political point. We won't get into that, but we're on this side of the green line, and that's where we are. So everyone helps each other out. Everybody wants to, support each other, and there's a real community feel throughout the week. Shabbos invites, the moment someone arrives in the community, people are going to be flooded with Shabbos invites, and they're going to be booked up for weeks and weeks and weeks from arrival. And there's a real sense of bringing everybody together. Now, again, somewhat unlike Carmei Gat, we have a real mixed bag in terms of the Olim and the stages of life that Olim are in. Now, for example, this year we've had 4 bar mitzvahs in our shul. We're going to have 4 bar mitzvahs. We've had 2 so far. We're going to have another 2 bar mitzvahs before the end of the year in our Beit Knesset. So we have a number of children who are at that kind of teen turning years, but the majority of our community are younger families with children under the age of 5 sometimes, 5, 6, 7, who are going into the primary school system or the elementary school system, as you call the United States, and starting off on that part of their life. We do have an older contingent as well in our community of essentially retirees who have moved to Israel. And either their children are already living in Harish and they want to be close to their grandchildren, or they just want to retire to Israel and finally live out the dream of being Jews in the land of Israel finally. But Harish is a more affordable location for them than anywhere in the Mirkaz. One of the beautiful things is, despite the fact that we don't have as many amenities for English speakers within the context of the city council and communication with them, there aren't as many English speakers amongst the general Israeli populace in Harish. Everybody helps each other out. So if somebody has a problem with their mamad door, with the door of their security room, one of the English speakers is going to go around to help them navigate, working with the repairman to make sure it gets fixed properly. If somebody has a problem with their Arnona bill, their council tax bill, a member of the community will help them out to make sure that everything gets processed properly. People just help each other because they know we're all in this together. City amenities, family living. What I mean by that is Harish, when we talk about Harish, isn't a neighborhood of a city. The Anglos are spread out throughout all of the city of Harish. Most of the Anglos in the location where our shul is located, Kihilat Derech Eretz, the name of the shul, is in the Harish neighborhoods. I'll let Brian speak to you more about the different neighborhoods and what they all offer. Many people are connected, so connected to the shul, they'll walk from wherever they are in the city to be here. However, even though it feels like you're in a city environment, i.e., you have all the things you could want in a city here. You have restaurants and you have entertainment and you have bookshops and all these different things that you could want and activities for children and parks, etc. It's still this very pastoral, very calm, very beautiful place surrounded by the forests of the Menashe region. If you head out of the city, suddenly you find yourself it's like you're walking into the middle of a forest far, far away from civilization. So you have that beautiful balance between a city life with the city amenities, but on the other hand, in the middle of a very pastoral, very green, very beautiful area. And the beautiful thing about Harish is, like Carmei Gat, similarly, we're also a Chalutznik community. There was nothing in Harish. When my wife and I found out about Harish, it was 2018, so 2 years after our Aliyah. We moved to a town called Tel Mond, and we lived there for 2 years initially, and we found out about Harish. Funnily enough, we went to a evening about Carmei Gat, which is where we heard about Harish, and we heard the sound of Harish, and that's why we ended up in Harish. And the potential of this location is just incredible. They're also building a train station in Harish. There's plans for a hospital here, and to come here now, you're really at the height of this great Chalutznik move from within Israel and from Chutz La'aretz to come and settle the land and be part of a really miraculous thing where there was nothing before. In 2018, when we bought, the entire neighborhood where we bought our apartment in did not exist. It was a hilltop. It was nothing but forest and dirt and rocks. And now there's a full and thriving Jewish life and Jewish neighborhood there, which was not there before. So you're really doing something incredible. You're contributing to the creation of a new city in the state of Israel, and really, to be zocher, to have the merit of doing that, is uncomparable. So that's a little bit about our kehillah. I could go on for much, much longer, but I want to turn it over to my colleagues and my friends to fill you in as well on the gaps, but feel free to reach out to myself for any questions about the community, about Harish in general. I'm more than happy to help.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rafi Berg. Okay, Israel, you're up. If you talk about, give a little bit of your background and why you chose to move to Harish.
Hi, everybody. Pleasure to be here. First time I'm taking part of such an initiative, and it's amazing. It would have been nice to have something like this when I was looking for a community. So until I found Harish, it was a long mission, a long journey. I came to Israel 15 years ago from a small hamlet in the United States called Brooklyn, New York. If you may or may have not heard of it. I was brought up in a more yeshivish lifestyle, American, you can call it Haredi, whatever you want. When I came to Israel, I added a bit more flavor to my Judaism. So I studied in the Yeshivat Merkaz Harav in Yerushalayim, which is a flagship religious Zionist yeshiva. After that, I was in the army. I did my service, a combat service in the Kfir Brigade. I've been in college in Israel and IDC studying in English, and that's not the topic of this Zoom meeting, but just to know that's also an option for whoever has children who one day want to study in English. But hopefully at that point they'll know Hebrew. So I'll jump right into the reasons why I moved to Harish, and of course along the way there are more reasons to move to Harish, which I may have discovered after living here. But of course, as everyone said, whether it's about Carmei Gat and about Harish, is definitely affordability. We rent a two-story, I guess you can call it a townhouse. In Israel, they call it a cottage, but it's definitely not anything like a cottage in the United States. It was definitely spacious compared to everyone, to Israel. We have a nice yard, and it's really enjoyable. We have 3 kids, so it's good to have that differentiation between the sleeping quarters and the rest of the house. And we definitely pay a decent price for it, as opposed to, you know, I don't know if we could get a phone booth in Tel Aviv for this price. I'm exaggerating a bit, but something like that. So definitely very affordable. And especially if you're not going for a 2-story, if you want something smaller, you can get even more affordable options. Also, in regards to the population, so our journey throughout Israel, we've been in places where our children were sometimes the youngest. Maybe there were other families who had children, but they were a bit older. And when we came to Harish, you know, one of the reasons why we chose Harish, because there are literally thousands of young families, you know, in between the ages of their upper 20s and upper 30s. And there's basically a park every 3 minutes. You can't walk more than 3 minutes in Harish without a park, and they're really nice parks too. There are also a lot of indoor playing grounds for kids. There are a lot of events for children. It's very, very children oriented. They have Tehillim programs on Shabbat. My daughter goes to Kabbalat Shabbat events every Shabbat, where they give out prizes and different things. So it's definitely the place for kids. And that's also very important. We know when we think a lot of things we think about when we want to move somewhere, we have to think about the kids too. So that's amazing. And I would say also the community is amazing. The fact that Harish is very, very diverse. So you can, wherever you put yourself on the spectrum, you're gonna, and you know, on the religious spectrum or even non-religious, you have those options here. I personally, I'm part of Kilat Derech Eretz, which is an amazing Anglo community. And it's an interesting mix between young people and older people who made Aliyah and want to spend their golden years in Israel. So that's a very interesting mix. The shul, of course, has a lot of shiurim, a lot of social events. Yeah, and I'll go. The shul is amazing. You know, the rabbi spoke a bit about the shul, and I don't have much more to add. It just is. You just feel like you're part of the community and not another brick in the wall, even though I don't really feel like quoting Pink Floyd in this day and age, start getting political. I'll just throw in a few more reasons that came in. Of course, these were 3 reasons. I don't want to take too much time, but I'll also just say, just personally about my neighbors. So I said we live in a townhouse, which is basically, it's like 3 families in 1 unit, and then across the parking lot is another building with 3 units. So we're 6 families all together in 1 parking lot. I can vouch for each and every family in you know, in this parking lot, that they're all amazing. And that's something that's incredible, that you could really have that relationship with your neighbors. So that's amazing. I would say commuting wise, you can get to work. I work in Ramat Gan. It's right near Tel Aviv. It's practically the same thing, Ramat Gan, Tel Aviv. It's even a shared train station. One side is Tel Aviv, the other side is Ramat Gan. And I can get there at about an hour and a half. I drive to the train station. There's a train station called Binyamina. Of course, just like Carmei Gat, they want to build a train station in Harish. It will happen one day. But so that commute is amazing. We're also very close to Caesarea, which is beautiful. So a lot of places to go out if you want, you know, if you want to go on a date or something. It's always, there's a lot of places in the area.
Great, thanks, Israel. Sorry, just in the interest of time, we just have to move. We have a few more points we have to cover, but we'll have your contact information at the end. And if anyone has any other questions, they'll reach out to you. But thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay, now we're going to move on to Brian. Brian, who's the realtor in Harish, Brian Becker. Hi, Brian.
Hi, thanks, Rafi, first of all, for inviting me. Thank you, Rabbi Feldberg, for your amazing introduction. I feel like there's not so much left. You guys mentioned all of the amazing things about Harish already, but I'll give a short history, I guess, and then some of the things for the future. So as far as location, we're about 10 minutes east of Pardes Chana. So the closest, we, like my acquaintances mentioned, we don't have a train yet, but there is a plan. The closest way to take the train would be to hop on a bus to either Binyamin or Pardes Chana, and that's about 10 to 15 minutes away, depending on traffic. In 2016, there were 1,000 residents in Harish. So there was one old street with the 40-year-old apartment buildings. In 2017, the first residents started moving into the first buildings. And fast forward to 2024, we have 45,000 residents. The future plans are, it's kind of a 10-year, flexible 10-year plan for 2 new neighborhoods, which should push the population to about 100,000. Our public transportation lately has changed dramatically with our new central bus station. That would be probably one of the newest additions to Harish. And that gets you, direct transportation to basically all of the locations that 95% of people in Harish work in. So Netanya, Hadera, Pardes Khana, even all the way to Haifa. You can easily switch buses, going to Caesarea. There are 5 neighborhoods. I would say at least half of the Anglos live in Horish neighborhood, but there are, and that's where most of the Dati Leumi, or the religious community, lives. Like Israel mentioned, it is a very diverse community. So while I say it's Dati Anglo, there are every kind of shul imaginable, from Breslov, the Karlibach, the Ashkenazi, Yemenite. We have 5 separate Chabad houses spread around the city, which I know most people are very proud of. One is right across the street from our shul, so that's an option as well. As far as amenities, also just in the last, I've been in Harish myself for about 4 years, made Aliyah 17 years ago. This is definitely the place I've been in the longest, actually. We have every major healthcare provider is represented here, as well as specialty doctors. So you don't need to, travel outside the city even for things like ultrasound or the dentist. As far as shopping, we have now 2 open this past year. We have 3 large malls with the larger chain stores. That's where you'll find your bigger cafes, larger supermarkets, things like that. And then in each neighborhood, as well as on the main street, you have all sorts of smaller stores, shopping, restaurants, makolets. Forgot how to say that in English. Real estate in Harish, in general, 3-bedroom apartments start around 1.5 million. And they go for a 4-bedroom up to about 1.9 million, and then more for penthouse garden apartments. And also the prices are about the same, really, within more or less 100,000 shekels between the neighborhoods. So for example, this is in Horish neighborhood, 3 bedrooms right on the edge, so you got a great view. New kitchen. It's going to come with 2 full baths, so 1 ensuite in the master bedroom, parking spot and a storage unit. Usually have a storage unit on the bottom floor of the building. And all of the buildings have elevators with Shabbat mode as well. So garden apartments, this is probably on the cheaper range for a garden apartment. They start around 1.8 million to 2.5, depending on size, things like that. So this has a smaller garden and price, but 120 meters inside, 42-meter yard, plus a 60-meter balcony for 1.85 million shekel, just under $500,000, I believe. The penthouses in Harish, they range always either 4 or 5 bedrooms. And also these start at about 2.2 million, going up to 3 million for the larger 2-floor ones. This is it's about 130 meters inside, 5 bedrooms, with 1 90-meter balcony, 2 parking spots plus storage unit for 2,350,000. And the unique part about units like these is that they're sometimes the only unit on the floor, so it's a very private. Beyond not having anyone above you, you really don't share the area with anybody.
And Brian, for people who want to rent, what's the range of rental prices?
Yeah, so the range on the first one, the 3 bedrooms, again, very standard within 200 or 300 shekel. 3 bedrooms starting at about 3,600 shekel a month, so about $1,000 exactly. And then 4 bedrooms for about 4,000 plus or minus. And then the penthouses and the gardens are 5,000 plus.
Got it. Great, thank you so much. And again, you can reach out to Brian for more information about Harish. The last neighborhood that we'll talk about, the community, is Achziv, and I'm going to talk about it. It's in an area that's very near and dear to my heart. We actually bought a vacation home there about 3 years ago for our family, for our mother, and it's just something that's very special. It's a very different feel than Harish and Carmei Gat. Again, not better or worse, just depending on what you're looking for. But we really bought an apartment there for 5 reasons. But the first reason is that it's a beautiful new community. It was started about 8 years ago, and it's being built by 2 developers, 2 of the largest developers, and everything's being planned out. So you're not going to see like a hodgepodge of different styles of buildings and a mess. Everything is planned out. It's beautiful. It's quiet. It's clean. And the nice thing about it is it's literally a 3 to 4 minute walk to the beach. So you come out of your apartment, you walk down the path, and you're at this beautiful beach. Achziv Beach is recognized as one of the most beautiful beaches in Israel. If you need to go out and shop, or you need to go to a doctor, then you can drive to Nahariya. Achziv is actually part of Nahariya. It's kind of set aside, but it's in essence the best of both worlds. You have the peace and quiet of this little community, and then you can drive 10 to 15 minutes into Nahariya, and you have the train station. You can go anywhere. You have bus station. You have the hospital, doctor offices, supermarkets, restaurants, and so on and so forth. Like they mentioned for Harish and for Carmei Gat, it also is relatively affordable, where prices start at about 1.9 million shekel. And when we bought it 3 years ago, we bought it as a wonderful place to go and stay there when we want to go for a few days, and also as an investment with upside potential. And it's growing. It's definitely growing, and we believe that the prices will keep on appreciating. In terms of the map, so it is up north by Nahariya, and of course now is a concern. It's relatively close to the border with Lebanon, but I believe and I pray, and I think most people do believe, that things will calm down eventually, and things will go back. Life will go back to normal. And before October 7th, it was very quiet, very peaceful, and even though it's up north, it's still not completely isolated. You can get in a car and drive. It's about 1.5 hours to 2.5 hours from Tel Aviv, depending on traffic. You can hop on the train, be in Modi'in in a couple of hours. And like I mentioned, it's just a 5 to 10 minute ride from Achziv into the center of town. This is just an aerial picture of the area, of the community. When everything's said and done, it's being built in phases. So when everything's said and done, there'll be about 1,000 apartments, about 33 buildings. Right now, I think there's about 18 to 20 buildings. So it's about halfway done. And it's definitely growing in popularity, and more people are moving there. It's primarily either younger families that are moving there, they want to be up north in the quiet area, or it's people that are looking to retire. And of course, you have people, Israelis that are moving there, as well as people who are abroad that buy this as a vacation home, and they'll come and spend a few weeks every year in Israel. Here are just a few renderings. You can see the beautiful apartments. Every apartment above the 3rd floor has a sea view, and you can just see the different types of apartments: the 4-bedroom, the 3 bedrooms, the penthouses, and the bottom right corner is a garden apartment. A lot of people have pools, jacuzzis, some playing areas, so you really have a nice mix of apartment styles. This is just a rendering. You can see the buildings are all being built around almost like a W shape. And then in the middle, there are people who have bought land there that are building houses. And according to the rules and regulations, they can only build a certain height. So anyone that buys an apartment above the 3rd floor will have an unobstructed view to the ocean. In terms of timeline, there are 2 phases that are now being marketed. The first one is currently being finished. So within the next few months, people are moving into this, in essence, it's the 3rd phase of the project. The next phase will be completed in about 3 years, and the average price ranges from about 1.9 million shekel, or about $520,000, up to 4.9 million shekel and about $1.3 million. And the nice thing about buying new construction is that you can put down 20%, and then you can pay it off over the duration of the construction. Okay, so that wraps it up in terms of content. We now want to take a few minutes and go through some of the questions. I know some of the speakers need to leave, so if you need to head out, then thank you for joining us. And I'll share this information with everybody so they can reach out to you. So let me just stop the sharing for a moment here, and we'll just look at some of the questions. Deborah, there was a question here about people in their 70s. Can you talk about Carmei Gat and how the change in population? You had mentioned that there are older people that are moving to Carmei Gat. So if you can just, and I think you're on mute still. So
Hi, sorry, yeah.
So if you can somebody asked about, the age demographics. If you can talk about
Sure.
the people in their
Sure.
60s and 70s that are moving there.
Sure. So Carmei Gat was very inexpensive when people bought on paper. It brought very young people here. And it's become more and more expensive. So older people have been moving in. So that's more like in their 30s, let's say 30 to 45. And at the same time, since I've moved in, I've made it one of my missions to bring in 50 plus people. And so that is also growing. And it's growing every day. I bring in more people. So I'm not saying there are 300 people over 50 here, but it's doubled. Even in the last year, some being grandparents of current people, and some being people who've never even seen Carmei Gat, but who are buying to have a home in Israel and in an affordable community.
Okay, and then there's a question here about the Kalbach Shul in Harish. They're asking where that is, where it's located.
I mean, I think either I or Brian could answer that. So the Carlebach Shul is located in the Harish neighborhood. As with many Bate Knesset and Harish, we're all kind of getting our plots now for land for building. And so both our shul and the Carlebach have been assigned plots within the Harish neighborhood, and we're in the process of fundraising at the moment, and they're within 2 minutes walk of one another, to be honest. So it's right in the middle of the Anglo Dati Lumi community. Both the Bate Knesset, both Kelet Derech Eretz and the Carlebach Shul.
And then there's a question about the topography in Harish. So Brian, is it relatively flat? What's it?
No, it's definitely more hilly in the Harish. Harish neighborhood itself probably is flat, but in general, the other neighborhoods probably less so.
Okay. There's a question here about support for younger people. So people that are coming themselves, maybe they're not married yet. Are there, Upanim? Are there places, Shurim, things like that, that might appeal to people who don't want to necessarily live in Tel Aviv, would rather live in a place like Carmei Gat or Harish. What's the single scene kind of look like in the two communities?
In Harish, it's actually pretty active. There is a diverse community here. So I know there's both secular and more religious kind of singles meetups. The more secular obviously meets at a bar in one of the neighborhoods. And then as far as the Ulpan, there's a large Ulpan actually, which has a few different classes. There's classes for new younger Olim. It's a lot more intensive, so it's every day. And then there's actually a retiree group which can run a couple times a year, which is like 3 times a week for a few hours. Okay.
And Rav Grossman, there's a question here about Ulpan class in Carmei Gat, but I'm just also wondering from the shul, are there any, besides the shiurim, are there other social events to try and, help people? What does that look like? What does the shul provide in terms of programming?
Yeah, I mean, the shul provides quite a lot. First of all, in terms of kids and family programming, so every week, every Shabbat is really packed with kids programming. Tefillat Eladim starting Friday night, Shabbat morning, kids learning Shabbat afternoon. That's a huge feature of the shul, and really throughout the week. We just finished a month-long program of kids Beit Midrash, of a learning program for kids. There was an event to kick off our building campaign, also fundraising for our building, which featured kids activities. It was a lot of fun. Yom Ha'atzmaut, Lag BaOmer. There's always programming for family and kids, and we have a whole range during the course of the week, both social activities and shiurim, lectures, and so on and so forth. There was a very successful challah bake event, mother, daughter, and grandmother. I think in some circumstances this past week that had dozens and dozens of participants. So there's a lot going on.
Wonderful. Okay, we'll take one last question here, just about living in Carmei Gat and Harish. So maybe for Rabbi Kagan and for Israel, if you can talk about, you both mentioned commuting to work. Can you talk about getting around without having a car or do you need a car in Carmei Gat and in Harish? Rabbi Kagan, if you want to start first, yeah, go ahead.
Sure, with pleasure. Yeah, I think look, I would tell anybody to avoid getting a car as long as possible in Israel. But yeah, I mean, with the family, we feel we definitely need a car. But as I said, I've got a scooter, so it's very useful to get around. On a scooter, you can walk. There's good buses. But yeah, I mean, I think you need a car. I would think you need a car. But there are younger couples that don't have cars. And an older couple that doesn't have a car that I know of, and they seem to be managing fine.
Okay. And I think Israel had to jump, but Brian, maybe if you can answer it for Harish, do you feel that people can get around without a car, or how necessary is a car?
So the neighborhoods are a little different. If you live in Horish neighborhood, where most of the Anglos live, I would say you don't need a car, simply because we have a few supermarket type shopping centers in the area, bakery, butcher, those type of things. You're never more than like a 5-minute walk from that. And also the buses, again, now it's really something that's changed in the last year or two. The bus system now is very good with the inner city buses, so you're never more than a 5-10 minute ride from one of the major malls.
Got it. Good. And I see here there's a question about Olim Advisors and the fee, and I'll just talk about it very briefly. So we do help a lot of people who just need some information. And then depending on your needs, if you need more hand-holding, we have a number of different packages and services and their different fees. So we really try to understand, first of all, what your needs are and how we can help you, and then talk about the different fees that we offer. So with that, I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight, those of you that have joined from around the world, and of course to the speakers who have joined us tonight. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the information. We'll send around the recording, and we really encourage you, if you have any questions, if you have anything that you want to really discuss, feel free to reach out to us, and we will gladly help you. So thanks so much, everyone. Have a safe week, a good week. Shavua Tov, and be well.